Hi, good evening. My name is Hari Varshne. Michael Stevenson has served as president of Simon Fraser University for 10 years and is an accomplished and award-winning scholar and author with a special focus on public opinion and policy and post-apartheid politics in South Africa. Dr. Stevenson championed Simon Fraser University's School of the Contemporary Arts at Woodward's, as well as numerous other initiatives to make the university more responsive to the community. Dr. Michael Stevenson.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be joining in this conversation stimulated by Sam Sullivan. University presidents are not the ideal candidates for a revolutionary salon, but I'm going to try to say something which I reflect some of the preoccupations and leadership of Sam Sullivan. As indicated in my introduction, I am enjoying the last days of my time in office at Simon Fraser University. In fact, I have enjoyed enormously practically every day of the last 10 years in that office, because I've been privileged to preside over a university and in a university system that has enjoyed momentous change in that period of time. And those extraordinary changes at SFU and at universities across this country reflect, I think, a number of assumptions that are very widely shared, and properly so. The assumption of the fundamental importance of higher education in today's knowledge economies, the particular importance in Canada of university-based R&D, research and development, and our contribution to the national economy, productivity, economic growth, and the quality of life. The complex demands on higher education for citizenship in an officially bilingual, regionally divided, and multicultural Canada, and the equally important demands for the internationalization of our higher education in order to assure the domestic labor force of the future and to advance Canada's interests abroad. And finally, the unique locational advantage of Vancouver and Vancouver's higher education institutions at Canada's gateway to Asia, where unprecedented economic and social changes are shaping the 21st century. As a result of these factors, favoring higher education in this city, we have enjoyed at SFU and elsewhere massive investments over the last decade to finance increased enrollment growth, program innovation, and research excellence, for all of which I am truly grateful to the people and governments of Canada and British Columbia, and because of which I'm reluctant to discuss a dirty little secret. That secret is that we are not making much progress, or not nearly enough progress, in educating citizens for the demands of effective participation in our bilingual national politics, our multilingual urban communities, and our global economy. And why do I say this? First, because of the inadequate preparation of bilingual education and competence in Canada, especially in British Columbia. Despite the high demand for French-intensive schooling countrywide, and particularly in this province, growth in accessibility to such programs in K-12 is not proportionate to the demand, and there is a disconnect between the K-12 system and higher education. The failure of our higher education system across the country has been documented in the recent report by Graham Fraser, Canada's Commissioner for Official Languages, and it is perhaps best underlined in British Columbia by the fact that outside of programs in French language and literature, there has been literally no bilingual program in any other subject offered in a higher education institution in British Columbia until the opening at SFU of a new program in public policy and administration. The failure to give strategic attention to bilingual education means an embarrassing exclusion, I think, from much of our national public discourse, a failure to get really proportional representation in our national affairs, and a corollary sense of frustration and alienation amongst BC citizens when it comes to federal politics. A second reason that we are not doing as much as we should for national and global citizenship is the inadequate attention and priority given to second language education generally. We need to do far more in English as a second language for the large number of new Canadians for whom English is not their first language. If we do not do better, they will continue to be too much excluded from our public life and economic opportunity. And we need to do vastly more by way of other second language schooling, especially in the major languages in which the great majority of our neighbors live and work: Mandarin, Hindi, Spanish, to cite the most notable examples, but there are many others, of course. We cannot afford the presumption that everyone will speak English, although increasingly they do. And we must be concerned about the consequences for our ability to nourish true friendship and partnerships abroad if we continue the cutbacks at universities and foreign language instruction and humanities programs, which provide the cultural context in which language communities understand themselves. Investment in these areas is crucial if we are to leverage the riches of our social diversity. And the third reason I would cite for our not doing as well as we should be educating national and global citizens is our relative failure in the broader internationalization of our higher education. Canada has slipped from being the third or fourth most desirable destination in the world for international students to a position where it ranks not even in the top 10 such destinations. We do far less well than a country of comparable size and economic wealth like Australia, and even New Zealand, a much smaller place, now outranks us. The result is that we are not sufficiently on the radar of foreign countries, and our networks in those countries are becoming less influential. And a corollary to our failures in the recruitment of foreign students is our failure to expose a sufficient number of Canadian students to educational experience abroad. As the Globe and Mail recently reported, Canadian university students are alarmingly provincial in a globalized age. Just 3% of undergraduates head out into the world beyond the country's borders as part of their university studies. Now, I'm happy to say at SFU and at other educational institutions in British Columbia, the record is much better than that, but not yet nearly good enough. We must do better. These are issues that trouble me particularly. As an immigrant to Canada, I have benefited enormously from this extraordinarily open, inclusive, and pluralist society. It is my obligation to see that others do so as well. My good fortune has been very much a product of the opportunities I enjoyed as an international student on generous financial assistance at a great university. And I have learned much from great mentors about what Canadian and global citizenship requires, including from our host tonight, a fine alumnus of SFU, whose command of French allows him to interact effectively across our country, and who has learned Mandarin in recognition of the most dramatic changes and the most dramatic opportunities in our world today. So thank you to Sam Sullivan for reminding me of the importance of language and communication for our national and global citizenship, and thank you all for joining me in insisting that we do better in this regard in our higher education in the future. We cannot, I think, afford to do otherwise. Thank you very much.